want to be a Shreddy McShredderson? Well, it takes some hard work, a little bit of dedication, and actually quite a bit of organization if you want to get there quicker. That's what we're going to talk about today. So maybe you've been playing guitar for a little while, you play some lead, you got pentatonics down, you know your scales a little bit here and there, and you've started getting into some music where guys are playing some really impressive fast stuff. Back in the 80s when I came up, and it was hair metal then, shredding was it. All the players were playing difficult lead passages. It was just everywhere you looked. And for me, the first guy that really got me going with wanting to learn technique in any kind of meaningful way was Yngwie Malmsteen.
I play classical music a little different than you're supposed to.
And the level of technical difficulty in his music and much of the other music we're talking about here takes a serious amount of practice to get to be able to play. And while it may not be everybody's cup of tea, especially for a listener who's not a musician, there's something about it when you're playing guitar that's just real satisfying about taking a piece of music that you wanted to learn or couldn't play a couple months ago, and you spend all that time learning it and you find a way to put it in a solo, and it's just feels really good when you finally make it there. So today what I'm going to give you is my first 30-day workout when you're just starting on your journey towards shredding. It's 3 exercises that I would do, and how you go about doing them so that you learn them the fastest is what we're going to talk about here. So now that you're ready to actually do the exercises, this is where we talk a little bit about organization. And I've got a PDF of the tabs for the 3 exercises I'm going to give you included in the link below. You should print that out because the main thing you want to do here is be working with a metronome and writing down beneath the tab there what speed you left off at in your last practice session. That way you are organized, and each time you come back to do it, you can try to go a couple beats per minute faster, 2, 4, whatever the jumps are that you make, and you're keeping track of what you're doing. Now, you can have a metronome app on your phone. You can use metronome online on Google, which is how I do things here, and just play along with it. Set yourself up to do, whether you're doing 1 note per click or 2 notes per click, just whatever it is, it's the same that you do it every time. In this case, I'm doing triplets against the click. So each click I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's going to go something like this. And I will work my way up to whatever speed I can play it cleanly at, and that's what I write on the sheet. Now, for this particular first exercise that I just played, I want to note that this is to help you with your alternate picking, which is the first part of being a shredder, in a 3-note per string method of playing a scale. If you kind of don't know what that is, you might want to check out my series on the modes where I talk about that. And the real shredder way of playing lead is usually to do the 3 notes per string. And one thing to note when you're doing this exercise is you need to do it actually 2 different ways. One is starting with a downstroke, like I did there, which is down on the G, 3, up, 5, down 7, up on 3 of the next string. And then I'm also going to do a set of that exercise starting with an upstroke. So it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And that is because every other string, when you're alternate picking, one starts with a downstroke, the next one starts with an upstroke, and so on and so forth. So your picking hand, one time is going to be picking the right direction, every other time is going to be picking in the wrong direction. You have to build speed both ways. Now, there is a workaround for this. You can do what's called conservative picking, and then you pick down, up, down on the first string, and then down, up, down on the next string. And just keep going down, up, down each time. I didn't do this at first because I found that I tended to have problems with timing. I kind of did like a trippy galloping did-it-it thing. So I was working more on the alternate picking. But either way is perfectly valid. If you're going to go with conservative picking, you only need to practice doing it the one way. Now, the second basic shredder technique that you're going to work with is a simple 3-note triplet arpeggio. These are very common in shreddery neoclassical music. And the one I gave you here starting in the G major scale is a triad starting on the 12th fret in a pattern I use commonly. And so on the G string, it's 12. On the B string, it's 13. You're going all downstrokes and you're raking as you go. And then you go to the 12th fret on the E string, and then it's an upstroke for the 15th fret, and then you pull off and then work your way back down to the 13, and then it's a downstroke again, repeating. Again, you're going to practice this with a click and keep track of where you left off so you can get better each time. So at 100 beats per minute, you get something like... And with the arpeggios, you'll see you get a feel with these simple 3-note per string arpeggios are the easiest, but you get a feel at a certain point of speed where it doesn't feel like you're picking anymore. It just feels like you're raking across the strings. And that's that kind of conversion into playing arpeggios when it starts to feel right. And the last thing is to build up speed playing on one string at a time so you can play horizontally and do some cool stuff. And it's a basic pattern that I got off of Paul Gilbert, actually, and it goes something like this. Starting at the top of the G, or the highest part of the G major 3-note per string scale. So I'm in here. I go 8, 5, 7, 8, 7, 5. It's a little bit of like a tongue twister with your fingers, getting it all lined up, but it works really well at the end of a phrase if you want to, once you get that down and you get it down to a decent speed, you can use it to move through the scale. Resolving to the major, definitely not a shredder thing to do. And so the last piece of advice I want to give you here when you're doing these practice sessions is not to do it for too long in a row. Learning to shred and learning parts on guitar is a bunch of sprints throughout the day rather than a marathon once a day. You will learn much faster if you work each one of these like 5 to 10 minutes at most on the first one, 5 minutes on the second one, 5 minutes on the third one. Put the guitar down, come back to it again an hour later or so, and see if you can go a little faster than you did before. You'll make more progress if you work with that kind of sprinter method rather than the marathon runner's method. So there is your first 30 days, part 1 of your shredder workout. Make sure you're working with a metronome. Make sure you're writing it down on the sheet, keeping track of where you left off. And if you can, you got enough time in the day, work in little chunks and sprints instead of working in a marathon. And guys, if you have any questions or further comments, anything you'd like to see me cover, please let me know in the comments below. And until next time, keep making great music. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.